Okay, we're talking about 184 through 191. Here we go, number 184. Define slope, blank over blank. I hope you remember slope. Slope is a way of describing how steep a line is. And if I'm trying to compare how steep that line is to, for instance, how steep this line is, I compare its rise over its run. Rise over run. Okay? Moving on. Given y equals 2x plus 1, find 3 points on the line. I should say the line. Okay, well that's a line, linear. It's a degree 1. Okay, and so find 3 points on that line. Well, I can make an xy chart. In fact, there are an infinite number of points on that line. It's kind of crazy, but there's an infinite number. If I pick x to be 0, I go back to my little equation and I stick in x is 0. And I have y must be equal to, well, what does this have to be? 2 times 0 makes 0, plus 1 makes 1. This would have to be a 1 to make this true. 1 is equal to 2 times 0 plus 1. See what I'm saying? 0 and 1 go together. All right? Next up, let's try sticking in 5 in for x. It can be anything we want. So if I stick in a 5 there, then this would be 2 times 5 makes 10, plus 1 makes 11. This would have to be 11. So 5 goes with 11. I can even stick in negative numbers if I want to get a little crazy. I can stick in negative 1 here. If I stick in a negative 1, I'll have 2 times negative 1 makes negative 2, plus 1 makes negative 1. Okay? And if I actually graph all these points, that's how I can get the graph without a calculator. I just go over 0 up 1, over 5, up 11. Okay, so that'd be like way up here, and then negative 1, negative 1. So that'd be like down here, and then basically, that's a really rough graph. I can find an unlimited number of combos. I just keep picking another x and I stick it in and I see what y gives me. All right, moving on. A line parallel to y equals 2x minus 4 has a slope of what? Well, if it's parallel lines have equal slopes. So I need to know what the slope of this line is. The slope of this line is 2 because the slope is always found right there in front of the x. So if this one's slope is 2, then a line parallel to it would have the same slope. Okay, so it would have a slope of 2. If it was perpendicular, that's this kind, a perpendicular line to y equals 2x minus 4, then perpendicular lines don't have the same slope, but they have a certain relationship to that slope. So here's the slope in question, okay, the slope of 2 on this line. The other line would have to have a slope of the opposite reciprocal of that number. Okay, so any equation with the slope, and the slope always goes there, right? I don't even care what this number is, because I can have a y-intercept or whatever I want, to be perpendicular to this line, I'd need an opposite reciprocal of 2, which would be negative 1/2. Okay, so negative 1/2 is the slope I would need to answer this question. Let's do another one like that. Let's say it was y equals 3x minus 7, and they wanted something to be perpendicular to this. Well, if the slope is 3, then the other line would have to have a negative 1/3 for its slope. And I don't really care what the y-intercept is. All right, and then it would be perpendicular to it. What if the slope problem starts with a fraction? Let's say that the original one they give you is 2/3, or let's say negative 2/3 x plus 9, and they want something perpendicular to that. You do the opposite reciprocal. What's the opposite of negative 2/3? Positive. And reciprocal, 3/2. And I don't care what this is. Let's say it's 10, whatever. All right, so then this and this would have to be perpendicular because they are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay? Moving on, 188. Given slope -3 and y-intercept 5, write the equation. Well, I've got a slope and I've got an intercept, so I'm going to use slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. I hope you've heard that before. And that's where the slope would go, and that's where the y-intercept would go. So y equals the slope, which is -3, x plus the y-intercept is 5. Slope of -3, y-intercept of 5. And there it is. That's my equation. Okay? Given point 3, 2 and slope 2, write the equation. Well, they've given me a point. They've given me a slope. It'd be really handy if I knew something called point slope. Here is the formula for point slope. Point slope is where you go y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Wouldn't you agree that all these equations always have an x and a y in them? So here's the y and the x that are still going to be there when I'm done. And I'm going to stick in a point here, and there, and I'm going to stick in a slope right there. Okay? So I'm going to have y minus, and then this is the spot where I put the y of my point, which is right there. I'm going to put that here, is equal to the slope, which m stands for the slope. The slope is 2, so I put a 2 here. And then I say x minus, and then the x of it. This one's x is 3. So there I have it. Y minus 2 equals 2 times x minus 3. A lot of times people go through and multiply that all out and solve it for y. You can do that, but it isn't necessary. This is a perfectly good way to write the equation. It's got a slope. I can see the slope. Its slope is 2. And it's got a point that I can define. I know that the point is at, it's not 2, 3. It's at 3, 2. All right? Moving on, 190. Given y minus 4 is equal to 3 times quantity x minus 2, identify a point and a slope. Oh, it's just like that last kind. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So I know that the slope is right there, and the point is right here and here. Okay, notice that it has y's in the general, or minuses, sorry, in the general form. And so there's minuses here, which means my point is really simple. It's the x of it is right here, 2, comma, the y of it's right here, 4, and the slope is equal to, right there, 3. Okay, I found a point, I found a slope. Now, is that the only point on this line? No, there's lots of points on that line. But that's the logical one to pick because it's right there in your equation. All right? Moving on. 191. Given point 3, 2 and point 4, 6, find the slope. Oh, this is really important. I've seen this problem a bazillion times. If you have 2 points, you got to be able to write an equation for the whole thing. And to do that, you got to have the slope. Well, all they're asking here for this is the slope. So I go y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. All right, so basically what that means is this is my x sub 1 and y sub 1. Here's my x sub 2 and y sub 2. And I plug those in to this little formula. So I subtract the y's, so I go 6 minus 2 over, I subtract the x's, 4 minus 3. The main thing is if you start over here and go this one minus this one, then you got to go back over here and go that one minus that one. You can't like trade them around and say that 3 minus 4 is the same as 4 minus 3. It's not. Okay, so you've got to be consistent on those. 6 minus 2 is 4 over 4 minus 3 would be 1. So the slope is equal to all that stuff, which is equal to 4. So my slope in this case would be 4. All right, that's all I have for that video.